can you borrow that notebook? And on it, oh, I know, I need a bigger one. I need a bigger one. I want you to write down 2 words in big print. First, write down falling. And then underneath it, write down failing. If you need help spelling it, and then I want you to hold it up and show everyone. And I want you to look at the 2 words. What's the difference between those 2 words? Falling and failing, in terms of how we spell them.
One has E.
Close. One letter difference, right? So we have failing, F-A-I-L-I-N-G, and then how do we spell falling? Thinking about on the ice, are those the same things?
No. Yes.
Do you fail? Listen, guys, do you fail every time you fall?
Yes.
No. Why not? Because what? Different situations? What else? Okay, perhaps a lack of effort. Why else do we fall? You're pushing yourselves and you're trying hard. You may make a mistake, right? But I want you to really think about that, because as I was watching you this morning, I think a lot of times you think that those 2 things are the same. That those letters, in terms of a fail and a fall, are the same thing. That every time that I'm falling, I'm failing at something. And that's not necessarily the case, right? I mean, a lot of the times when you are falling, I mean, Coach Lackey said that just 2 minutes ago, right? That there were a lot of falls. How many were there? How many were there? 52, right? But those are good things. We can learn from that. So I want you to really think about that. That when you're on the ice and you fall down, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to fail. I mean, chances are you don't remember how many times you fell down today. How many of you remember the number of times you fell down today? A couple of you. I would challenge you not to worry about that so much, because that's where if you focus on how many times you fall down, then you're focusing on the failure experiences and not the positive things. Okay? I took some notes, and so I just want to go through them.
Morrissey?
Yeah.
We have a question. Brent, can you stand up and ask a question?
Oh, yes.
Okay, we'll blow it up.
Okay.
The only point of us telling, of you telling us that we really need to try hard is the fail. Well, fail with effort. Because when you fail and you actually fail with effort, that's how we learn. That's the only point of that.
That's absolutely right.
Good job.
Alright, so on one of your first drills you did with your weight shift drill, right? You remember doing that?
Oh, yeah.
Is it more important to be first in your group to finish?
No.
What's more important?
Doing it right.
So even if you are really far behind the rest of your group and you're doing your drill correctly, do you think your coach and your parents are going to be more proud of you for that, or are they going to be more proud of you for finishing first?
More proud of being behind.
Being behind and really focusing on your skill development, right? So that's something else. Don't be fearful of finishing last when you're at practice, or even when you're in a scrimmage. So do not necessarily worry about finishing last. And I can see that just sitting on the bench. I can see all of you sort of have that anxiety, the way that you carry yourselves, and the way that you have sort of that panic in your eyes. Oh my gosh, my group is getting ahead of me, and I'm going to cheat a little bit. The coaches are watching me right now, so I'm going to take a couple steps forward without really focusing on my weight shift, right? And that's not necessarily a good thing in terms of developing your skills and being better. So don't worry about what other people think about you or how you finish in your particular group. How many times did you do your weight shift drill? At least 4, right? So if you finish last in one of those 4 attempts, who cares? Like, who really cares, right? So really focus again on doing things right and learning from that, rather than worrying about finishing next to your group or making sure that you were the first person to do that, okay? Does that make sense? Good. The next thing. If you are last in line to do something, so you're at the end of the group and you're last in line to try out a new drill, again, some of you I saw you were cheating a little bit to catch up. That's not a good thing, right? Use that as an opportunity. Think about that again. Okay, yes, I'm here, I'm last in my group to go, but it doesn't matter how quick I get to the other end of the rink. Instead, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to focus on getting myself from one end of the rink to the other end of the rink without worrying about what my friends think, without worrying about what my parents think. So again, using that as an opportunity, a place to learn. Something else that I just noticed some of you doing is really focusing on that outcome rather than the process of getting yourself across the ice. You're worried on the outcome of just getting across the ice without focusing on what you actually have to do. And then briefly, when you're called on to demonstrate a skill, how many of you like getting called on to demonstrate a skill? Why maybe do some of us not like getting called on to demonstrate a skill?
Puts pressure on them.
It puts pressure on us. Okay, you're afraid to fail. You could mess up in front of everybody.
Hockey strike.
Okay, so you're fearful, right? You have a little bit of anxiety there. But in terms of it being a pressure situation, absolutely it's going to be a pressure type of situation. But think about that for a moment. Why do you think you're getting called out to do a particular drill in front of everyone? Yeah, right? You're doing it well, and the coaches want you to be sort of that role model that's going to show the rest of the group how to do something effective and to be successful and to do it well. So you have to sort of change your perspective about that, right? So yeah, we're scared to take risks and we're scared to fail, and we have sort of the pressure on us of everyone watching and us perhaps falling. But again, falling doesn't necessarily mean we're failing. And then of course, what we have in terms of changing that perspective is coach is not going to call me out and have me do something in front of the whole group if he doesn't feel that I'm capable of being able to do that. So you have to remind yourself, like that's what you should be working toward each and every practice, is being that person that coach is going to call out and have you demonstrate a particular skill or a drill. Because that means he's confident in your ability to help your teammates and the people around you do better. And it also means that he's confident in your own ability in terms of seeing how much you have grown over time. So, think about that in terms of that being a goal each and every practice, that, what? I'm going to try really hard at this particular drill or this skill so that Coach Larry is going to use me as a role model. Have you ever thought about that from that perspective? Anyone? It's something new to sort of think about, because chances are you probably haven't, and that's an okay thing. But really, that really should be a goal of yours coming into practice, is developing that intensity so that you can go into practice and say, all right, I'm really going to master this skill, because hopefully within the next couple weeks, I'm going to be that role model that Coach Lackey is going to call out to help understand and help my teammates understand how to go about executing this particular skill. Any questions so far? Good? Yes?
If you're trying to do something and you fail, that doesn't mean you're a loser. It just means you gotta keep trying harder and harder. So what you're trying to say is, if you slip or fall on the ice, you just gotta get back up and try.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Are you good with that, Heather?
Perfect.
Yeah. But why do you think we have such a hard time when we're not able to say that? Like when we do fall and we get down on ourselves, why are we not able to say, I learned from it, it's not a bad thing?
Well, because if you fall, if you just fall, it's not bad. It's bad, but it's not like you're gonna crack your head or anything. It's just you fall. It's not like, oh, this is the end of the
point is who cares? Like, does Coach Lyman care if you fall?
It's just one. It's nothing. It's really nothing. It's a piece of junk.
It is. I think you bring a really good point, right?
I
So
mean, what can I say?
I think you've said it all. But that's, it's really important. So when we have a situation in which we are fearful of, there are two ways of looking at the situation, okay? There's a way of looking at it as a threatening situation and also a challenging situation. What's the difference between those two? A threat versus a challenge. Do you know?
A challenge is just something that you pretty much haven't done before.
Okay.
In a threat is if you're in front of everybody and you're like doing a demo and you are like
That's right. Absolutely. It's a good start. Anything else? Andre.
What are we talking about?
Someone remind, what are we talking about?
Challenge.
Oh,
Okay.
it's like a challenge pretty much is something really hard. Well, just hard, I would say. And the threat is like when you're threatening what threat are we talking about? I think is this hockey threat.
Yes. Let's
Okay.
talk about hockey.
It's where you smack somebody in the leg or something bad.
Okay, perhaps.
I think.
Yep.
Not the answer, I think.
Yep, you're almost there. It's
Not
very
possible.
aggressive. So a lot of times when you're learning a new skill, it's really frustrating, right? You try hard and you try it over and over and over again and you're still not getting it. There are two ways of looking at that situation. You're looking at it as a threat or you're looking at it as a challenge. And what I am asking you to do is try your best, and we can work on this, but really try your best to get over that fear in terms of thinking of it as a threatening situation, but it's more of a challenging situation. The coaches are not going to present you with a situation that they do not feel that you can overcome, right? They're not going to present you with something that is so difficult that you're never going to be able to master. They're going to present you with a situation that is very challenging, and they expect you to perhaps fail at times and to not execute it appropriately or properly, but they want you to think about that in terms of it being a challenge and that I have the resources to overcome it. So let's talk about weight shifts for a minute. We're thinking about it as a challenging sort of situation. What are some of the resources that we need to be successful in executing our weight shift?
Maybe you can watch some of the bigger guys, or you can try and, like, if you're in line and you're like, oh, would you look at that? Maybe I can try and get my leg extended a little bit more.
Really good point. When you are in line waiting for your turn, is it smart to be like looking at your skates and like counting, the number of ice chips on the rink or looking up at the lights for funsies? No. What should you be doing?
Watching the big kids or paying attention.
Maybe not just watching the big kids, but maybe just watching everybody.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think
and
some
try your best.
of the little kids were really, really good.
Show the little kids what to do.
Good.
But
What else?
I got the notes.
What's that? Practicing in line, right? That's another resource. You have, maybe a minute or maybe even 2 minutes before you get to go again. So using that as an opportunity to hone your skill of that particular weight shift is nobody should just be, doing nothing during the time that you're waiting to get back and practice your drill. Either have your eyes on someone else that is doing it or be practicing it in line. That is a resource that you have readily available. It costs you nothing more. You're already there. Why just stand there? Use that as an opportunity to work on that particular skill. Okay? What other resource do you have? In the back.
self-confidence.
What's that?
Self-confidence.
Self-confidence. If you have a high level of self-confidence, right? How do you go about developing self-confidence? practice, right? Over and over and over again. And so using your resource of waiting in line is the way that you can go about developing that self-confidence, is that practice and practice and practice again.
Will make you better.
Will make you better, you are right.
Also, another resource you have is coaches. Like if there's a coach right by you, you can say, hey, how do you get your leg on the other side if you get it really weak or something like that?
Yeah, I'm curious, coaches, did you have a lot of kids asking questions?
Most of the kids are grading, so.
Okay, so no one is using Coach Lackey as a resource right now in terms of asking for a little bit of constructive feedback. Other coaches?
No, I wouldn't say anything really come up to get talk to me about asking how to do something because we just don't really see it. We'd like to see it more, but we don't see it by mask.
Yeah, I would think that that's a really good idea, is asking the coaches. You know, if you're struggling with a particular drill, again, use the opportunity while you're waiting in line to go again to say, hey coach, I'm struggling with it. Can you come over, sort of help me with this?
Or ask the
All
big-
joking aside, I had 6 or 7 players approach me today with questions, good questions. One or two of them I saved for the group, and then I answered it to the entire group because I thought it was a question that the entire group should have. So, all kidding aside, I had 5 or 7 players come up to me and check out this question.
Good.
You know, you can also grab the better players too.
Yeah, yeah,
Easily. They'll all help.
good.
In fact, I had like 3 or 4 of them helping me run a drill today, so really good.
What else? How many of you watched your video, your analysis?
Oh, that's
That's probably another resource, right, in terms of developing your skills and seeing it as another opportunity to get better with the leadership.
also your parents, they see the whole ice, they see every thing you do, so they can help you a lot.
They absolutely can help you a lot, right? So you have to think about the resources that you have available both on the ice and off of the ice. Does anybody know what imagery is?
It's like when you hold it in time to visualization
Okay.
too.
Okay.
So it's imagining yourself doing it or imagining someone else doing it, maybe to know what it looks like or how to do it.
Absolutely. So that's another way that you can really go about gaining that confidence in your technique, right? In terms of if you're talking about weight shift, is that's the perfect skill to really practice in your mind, right? I mean, you know exactly sort of what your body needs to be doing to work on your weight shift. So using imagery right before you go to bed, before you get onto the ice, is really, really important in terms of being able to practice your mental skills off the ice so that your physical skills on the ice are going to be a little bit better, okay? Andre.
The best part of hockey is skating. Skating is what makes you better and what moves you on to the next level. But what I would do is skate, stretch. These are the steps that I would do. If I was a skater, like a forward or something, I would stretch first, get in line, and take some shots. Because stretching and skating are the two things you're gonna need to do to get warmed up for a game or something. Because if you get cramped.
You got it.
Yep, and it is, right? Being on the ice is important, but it's also important that you practice your game off of the ice. And the best way to do that is through your mental skills training. And so being able to develop that confidence comes along with that positive self-talk in terms of seeing these really frustrating or challenging obstacles as just that, right? As obstacles that we have these resources to overcome, but if we don't use the resources that are readily available to us, are we going to get better? No. Are you going to be able to master your weight shifts? Probably not, right? If you're just relying on yourself, you absolutely have to use these resources. You know, your parents come and watch you. You don't realize how lucky you are that a lot of your parents do that. Okay? When I was growing up, and my mom would drop me off, she'd pick me up at the end, and that was it. So it's really, really nice to see how much access you have in terms of that support as well as the feedback that you can gain through your parents, through your coaches, as well as through that film.
Oh no, I was just stretching again.
Okay. Yeah. Jack.
I have big ice and a big goalie at my house, and I can take shots on it.
That's a really good idea, right? In terms of being able to practice at home off of the ice. Good. I like it, Jack. Grant.
I can do the same thing. I do.
That's good. How often do you do it a week?
Well, I do it a couple times a week.
Okay. Every week?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Okay, that's good, right? You want to make sure it's consistent practice. Oh, Nick. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Nick. Okay.
I play travel hockey. My team, when we're facing a better team, for example, we were in LA, we were facing New Ducks, fourth best team in the country, and their mentality was we're not going to is there any way just to tell them they in the mindset that they're going to win?
Your team's mentality?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's think about that. Getting to that stage, right? They obviously have to have the skills and the resources to get to that stage in terms of having that high level of competition. So that's what you remind them of, is we didn't just get here because we got lucky, right? That we drew a good stick. It's through the effort that we've put in. So you look back on all those past performance accomplishments that you've had in the past that have gotten you to that particular point, and you focus on those success experiences. Does that make sense?
So you're talking about a team, your team, already lost the game before they did yes, because of their attitude. So, I mean, these are all things that we're talking about today that as individuals and as a team.
Yeah, so just focusing on the past performance accomplishments, right? I mean, that we're all going to have failure experiences, but instead of focusing on the failure experiences, we focus on the positive things that have gotten us to this particular point. Good question. Okay, I want to read something, and then I'm going to give you some homework assignments that I want you to do for tomorrow, and your parents can help you with them too. Does anyone know who Brent Moran is?
No.
By chance?
Nope.
No?
Sorry.
Okay, no, I don't think that many of us do. Okay, so he is a 17-year-old prospect who's readying himself for the 2014 NHL entry drafts. He's ranked 3rd among North American goaltenders by the NHL Central Scouting Service. He's in his 2nd year with his junior team, the Niagara Ice Dogs. And so he talks about being that particular person who his team relies on and who really enjoys the pressure. So he quotes here, "I love having the pressure on me and being a game changer. I love the excitement and the pressure of being a goalie. It seems like the team depends on me and counts on me, and I like that feeling." Okay? He goes on to sort of talk about how he gets prepared for particular games. I think that everyone has a routine. Physically, I try to warm up my body with some stretching, especially dynamic stretching. I don't do anything too special physically, but to get prepared mentally, I read a lot of my mental training books between periods and before the games. So I feel like that helps me get focused for the rest of the game. In the long run, the person with a good work ethic will always be the person with only talent. So Brent here has some really good things to say in terms of sort of loving that excitement and really enjoying the pressure that goes along with being the go-to person on that particular team. That's a point, that's where you want to get to as hockey players. That successful hockey players shine in those critical moments, right? When that pressure is on them, they're not going to be fearful of that pressure, because when we get fearful, we play safe and we play cautious and we don't challenge ourselves. And that's not something your coaches want to see. Your coaches want to see you challenge yourself. So you really have to push the boundaries and push your limits in terms of seeing those really stressful or those anxiety-provoking situations as excitable. This is the way that I'm going to show my coaches that I have learned something. And that can be really scary, but it's something that you need to really focus on. And your parents can sort of help you do that in terms of, encouraging you. You know what? Get up on the ice. And don't be fearful of it. If you fail, it's an okay thing, because no one's going to remember this failure a week from now, right? So it's exciting that I'm sort of being the one that my team is relying on. It's a pressure-filled situation, absolutely, but it's something that it's good. We can take away good from it, not just focus on the negative aspect of it as it being scary.
I think what you're saying too is that young man, he's embracing his situation.
Right.
Instead, he's wrapping his arms around it instead of backing away.
Yep, absolutely, it's a very good point, right? So that I'm moving forward and seeing this as an opportunity to showcase my skills and to showcase that I have the abilities to sort of carry the weight of my team on my shoulders instead of, you know, being fearful of that sort of responsibility.
Same as pressure that you're under, say like 50 shots, what if you like led 7 goals and your team's just getting down on you? Is there any way that really you would handle that?
Any ideas first from you all? How would you handle that? Is everyone here? Nick?
No.
Nick, say a little bit louder.
Say you're facing an enormous amount of shots and you led 7 goals, your team's getting down on you, what would you do? Mentally, what would you tell them?
You could use positive self-talk.
What is positive self-talk? Because some people may not know in this room.
Saying good things to yourself in your mind, bring yourself up. I led in 7, but that's it.
Okay, good, good. Yeah, so the use of positive self-talk, right? In terms of, again, seeing that silver lining or the positives of that situation that, you know, maybe you blocked one really good shot and that's what you take away from that experience, okay? That I only let 7. What are some other ways we have? Let's hear from, okay, good, yeah.
Pump your teammates up.
What's that?
Pump your teammates up.
Okay, so pump your teammates up, right? Absolutely. That, you know what, it's not the end, right? We still have the opportunity to win, or even if that's kind of a long shot, what can we still focus on in terms of positive?
Can I make a comment on Nick's
Yes.
comment? With Nick being a goalie, and I say this all the time, Nick, you have 5 other players in front of you, so it's not always the goalie's fault. There's 5 other kids on the ice in front of you. So, yeah, if you let 7 in, they let 7 in as well. So, as coming from a goalie question in his mind, there's other teammates. Everybody else that's not a goalie has to realize that as well. So you may have failed by, a defenseman may have failed by letting the guy get past you. Okay. Is it Nick's fault?
No.
No, but what does everybody think? Oh my God, what's the goalie doing? It's a team effort, so it's not specifically always the goalie's fault. Yes, there may be a shot that happens and goes in, it's the goalie's fault. So for a goalie, it's a team effort.
Yeah, and what you have to hope is that your team accepts that responsibility, right? I mean, it's the nice thing about being a hockey player is that it is a team sport. So the blame, if there is blame, that it is shared, right, among everyone else. But being a goalie is a very difficult position to play because you are the one that the blame falls on a lot of times. Yeah, absolutely. But being mentally tough in terms of, you know, something that, you know, Doreen is saying there is that very important that we recognize it's a team effort, and then what Danny's saying in terms of that positive self-talk, right? Being able to have that positive mindset, even though we have had some sort of failure experience, how do we work ourselves out of that? And again, it does a lot of times come back to relying on past performance accomplishments, that you really do think about your best performance and you go back to that because it helps you know that you're capable of achieving success. When you've done it in the past and you've been successful, so you wanna think about one positive experience that you've had that is like your best game that you've ever played or your best practice you ever had, and keep that in your pocket so that when you have those really, really difficult times and those failure experiences, you bring them out of your pocket and you say, listen, like, I know I'm capable of success because I've been successful in the past, and sort of remind yourself, well, what did I do to be that successful? I mean, because I know I've done it before, so you have to reflect on that, bring that, you know, back to the forefront of your memory, and go through that process. Okay, how did I get myself out of this position before, or what did I do to be successful in the first place?
The other thing that I think is important too is to look at it and say, I stopped 43. Not that I let 7 in. I stopped 43 against the 4th best team in the nation. That's pretty darn good. right? And I know you're saying it from a teammate perspective. Sometimes you're on teams where they're just not the greatest guys in the world, right? And you have to mentally work through that, because as you go on in this game, you're gonna find yourself on teams where everybody's peachy, and then you're gonna find yourself on teams where everybody's pointing the finger. You've gotta be able to process both of those things, so you don't feel the weight of the world, right?
Nick, to his point, whose mind can you control? Only yours. So you can't control the other guys on the ice's mind, only yours. So once you learn that, you're responsible for just you, and then you take it from there. You can't control those guys from getting down on you.
That's right.
You know, this should work for everybody in here as well. You know, if you're losing 7-0, you know, you can't get down. For any position you play, the same thing applies. You have to draw on something that you did good the shift before or the period before. So it's just not directly being directed towards being a goalie right now. It's the whole game. You can draw from.
This is just a 30-second blurb, I hope. It just happened like on Thursday. I was watching television before I went to bed, and they had this new kid on the Diamondbacks who came from St. Louis. I won't do the story, right? So he said, well, what did you learn from this exceptional hitter in St. Louis? And I forget his name. But he said every time the guy went 0 for 4, he'd come into the clubhouse and he'd come up to this kid and go, did you see how hard I hit the ball today? Unbelievable. That was the best 0 for 4 I've ever had in my life. I hit it down the line, it went foul. Then I struck out. But tomorrow, I'm gonna have a lot of success because did you see me hit the ball today? I went 0 for 4, and this guy's going, he went 0 for 4. And what's he focusing in on? The positive things that went on in that 0 for 4. So tomorrow, he's going to be all over the picture. That's already his mentality. So he said, that's what I learned from him. It wasn't any technique, it was mental skills. Okay?
Are you all familiar with Winnie the Pooh?
Wait, what?
Winnie the Pooh?
Oh, we
Cartoon. I use this a lot. So I worked with my brother a little bit when he played basketball, and we always talked about what Coach Lackey is saying here is that you're either going to be Tigger or you're either going to be Eeyore. What's the difference between Tigger and Eeyore?
Active and not active.
Okay, and Tigger's always happy and fun, super energetic and positive, where Eeyore always has this gray cloud sort of over him and is really the pessimist, right? He's not very happy. And we typically see that in athletes, is that we have our Eeyores who always focus on the negative types of things. How to practice go, oh, it's terrible. You know, I fell 25 times. If you can tell me that you fell 25 times, is your focus on the right place?
No.
Not at all. Right? But if I hear an athlete come to me after practice and they, you know, I ask them, well, how did practice go? And they say, oh, it was great. You know, I learned this new skill. While I may not have mastered it, you know, I made some progress on it. So, you know, challenge yourself again. We gotta be those Tiggers, because Eeyores don't get very far in life, right? I mean, they kind of mosey along, are not successful, and they have this great rain cloud hanging over them. Do you want to be around that as a teammate? Our Eeyores? No, we want to be Tiggers, and we want to surround ourselves with Tiggers, right? In terms of having that energy and being happy about our performance. I know it sounds silly, but it makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, you really have to look for those positive types of things, because life stinks sometimes, hockey stinks sometimes, and it can be frustrating and hard, but you sort of got to rally, right, in terms of being able to find those positive things. Andre, do you have a question?
Like, if you're having a sad moment of hockey or something, stop thinking about that. Think of like happy stuff about hockey, the moments you scored or something. Fight back what you've done wrong and do something really good. That doesn't mean you're a loser. It means you have to try harder.
Yep, and that can be hard, right? It can be easy to say that a lot of times, but it can be really hard to sort of follow through them. You gotta learn, and you gotta.
It's like a video game. You just gotta move and move and move.
You're right.
Stop.
Okay, one more question, and then we'll move on.
Can I just add to that?
You absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for adding. Plus.
Well,
Okay. Do you want to think a little bit, and then I'll.
you can go back.
Okay, I'll come back to you. All right, I you have your phones, take them out and write these down. If your parents are here and they're willing to help you out with your homework assignments, that is great. But we're going to come back to this and use this tomorrow in the classroom. All right? The first question I have for you is I want you, or first task really, is I want you to write down your own personal reasons as to why you are scared to take risks, or why you are scared to fail. What are your own personal reasons? I don't want to hear what you think other players are scared of doing, or maybe even what we've talked about today, but I want you to do your own personal reasons as to why you fail. And when you bring this in tomorrow, I'm gonna collect them, but I'm not gonna share your answers with anyone. We're gonna talk about them as a large group, but I'm not gonna say that, oh, Clay is scared of this reason, okay? I'm not gonna do that, right? It's gonna be sort of confidential and anonymous. So be very honest, because this is gonna be really useful to us tomorrow when we work on this. So what's the first task?
Write down personal reasons.
Okay, so what are our personal reasons for why we're scared to fail, or why we're scared to take risks? Then what I want you to do is write down the worst possible thing that could happen if you do take that risk. What is the worst possible thing that could possibly happen if I take a risk and fail? Just think about that. We'll talk about it tomorrow. And you may know now, but that's okay. Just remember and remind yourself for tomorrow. Remember what you had to say?
Well, no, that is something new. What if you aren't scared to take any risk or
That's a very good thing to have. That means that you're going to be very, very successful. But sometimes that means that we have to remind ourselves that when we're tired, that we still have to take those risks, and that we still have the opportunity to learn, right? Good. All right, so what's the second task?
What would happen if that happened? If you took the risk?
All right, what was that? Okay, so what's the worst possible thing that could happen if we were to take that risk and if we were to fail? Okay? And you may have, 2 or 3 ideas that come to mind. Write down all the things that kind of come to mind when you think about that. That if I were to take this risk and if I were to fail, what's the worst possible thing that could happen? Okay? Last but not least, I want you to, and this is going to take a little bit of time, I want you to write down what your pregame routine is. So from the moment that you wake up in the morning to the moment that you get to the rink, what is your pregame routine? Show of hands, how many of you have a pregame routine? Okay, so about half of us, that's an okay thing. If you don't have one, that's fine. I want you to think about what you want your pregame routine to be. Okay? And we'll work tomorrow with that because it's really important in terms of preparation to have that focus. Because if that's what you're focused on your pregame routine, and Clayton and I have worked on this, right? We've talked about it in terms of really focusing on that pregame routine, in terms of even what do you have for breakfast in the morning of your game? Okay, bagel sandwich each and every day. So I told Clay, when you're eating that bagel sandwich, you should be focusing on that bagel sandwich and not worrying about your game right now, because that's going to give you that situation where you have that fear and that anxiety and that pressure. But if you are focused on your pregame routine, that's where your preparation is, and that's part of your intensity and that focus that you have now developed in terms of it being part of your day as you prepare for your game. So that pregame routine is really important in terms of that mental preparation, is that, well, you know what, my favorite show's on TV, so I'm now going to watch that show instead of following through with my pregame routine. That's what we don't want to happen. So if we establish this preparation in terms of that pregame routine, or even a pre-practice routine, very, very useful in terms of helping us prepare mentally as we get to the rink in terms of being able to prepare physically. Okay? So let's run reasons why you're scared to take risks or why we're scared to fail. Good. Number 2. Good. Worst possible thing that can come out of a failure. And third, pre-game routine. Okay, so these are your 3 assignments for tomorrow, and that's what essentially we are going to chat about tomorrow. So bring back your notebooks or bring back these on a piece of paper, and what I'm going to do is collect them even before you get on the ice tomorrow. Okay, so you want to be finding me tomorrow night, right? Tomorrow night. So before you get on the ice, I want to have these because I'm going to use them ahead of time so that we can come in here and do some good work tomorrow with your answers. Good.
Before we, thanks. Good information, it's really, as an instructor, it's a challenge to deliver information to Grant and to deliver information to Danny, and to Donovan and our older group, so very nice job. Tomorrow for our scrimmage, would you please bring, if you have a black jersey on the ice, please bring something close to a bright color. Orange, yellow, red is okay. Ted is just fun, more pale than he normally is. Because he's thinking about the analytics. But we have to balance the teams. Last scrimmage we had far too many black, right?